Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So, thank you everybody for joining us today for this Better Business Workshop. My name is Stan Odenthal. I'm joined here by my co-host, Jasmine Cabrera. And we're going to go through some slides. We've also got a lot of other folks that are joining us as part of the panel to talk today about incumbent worker training. We'll introduce those folks here in just a minute. But thank you again for joining us. So what are these webinars? What are these workshops that we're at today? It's a series of workshops, the Better Business Workshops. We run these every third Thursday of each month. Well, almost every month. Sometimes we skip a month or two, but for the most part, we run them the third Thursday of every month from 1 to 2 p.m. It's Heartland Workforce Solutions. We're a nonprofit entity. We'll talk a little bit more about what we do as well. But we host these meetings and we try to bring topics forward related to services and resources for businesses. And so as part of this, we also have Haram as a great promoter and helper with these as well. So thank you, Sarah, for being here and for promoting these webinars. And so today we're going to be talking about the Incumbent Worker Training Program. We've got Jasmine and I from HWS. We've got Brian Seck from Lincoln Literacy as well. And we've got Alejandra and Megan from National Able as part of this panel today. But we're going to kick it off and talk a little bit more about some of the business resources here at HWS and then jump into the incumbent worker stuff. Let's see.
Awesome. So thank you everyone for being here today. I think, like Stan mentioned, today's workshop will be great, full of great information that you are going to be able to walk away with. So a little bit about Heartland Workforce Solutions for those of you who are new. We are the local workforce board who serves 3 areas serving Douglas, Sarpy, and Washington County. And our mission is to promote workforce development in these areas. And so we serve not just job seekers, but businesses as well. And so our goal is really to bridge that gap and be able to make those meaningful connections.
And so, some of the folks that we serve are the job seekers. We have a wide variety of folks that walk into our offices each and every day. You might think, well, hey, the unemployment rate in Omaha is super low. It's at 2%. There's probably not anybody coming into your job center looking for work, but we get a lot of people on any given day. Typically that number's in that 80 to 100 people range. Mondays and Tuesdays, sometimes that number is approaching 150 people or so. So we actively work with job seekers, but we also provide resources for businesses. And this all comes down from that federal funding that we receive to serve those 3 counties. And so we're working with job seekers, we're working with businesses, we're working with partner organizations that are on site. Some of those are state level programs like the Nebraska Department of Labor, like vocational rehabilitation. Some of them are federal programs like Job Corps. Some of them are contractor programs, as well as local foundational programs. And so a lot of great partner programs. And so we're actively, developing workshops, developing tools to serve both job seekers and businesses at our center.
And I am able to form part of the awesome business services team. And so our role is really to get to know businesses, get to know what their hiring needs are, what your hiring needs are, and then get you connected with everything going on from events to workshops like these. And so if you haven't done so already, feel free to scan the cool QR code with the little dinosaur there and fill out the registration form for us to get to know a little bit more about what your needs are. And then one of our business services team members will reach out to you, set up a meeting, set up a tour, be able to get to know what your needs are and be able to hopefully make those connections and build a connection with the workforce center. So
cool. Also, we do have a monthly digital newsletter, which tells you all about the upcoming events, such as job fairs, such as workshops, such as other things that you may be of interest to you. Also list out employers that are participating in our resource room when we have open tabling and things like that. So definitely worth signing up for this newsletter to kind of stay informed as to all of the great activities and events that are happening at our workforce center.
Along with that, we are very active on all of our social media. So we're active on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and newly TikTok and Threads as well. We are kind of just keeping an eye on that, seeing where that goes. But you are able to find those links on our website. But this QR code is the link to our TikTok. And so we are posting weekly on our TikTok too, mainly for our job seekers to with tips and tricks for interview skills, resume tips. And so we're always updating our social media with events that are coming up. Our LinkedIn is really heavy for businesses. So if you're not connected with us on LinkedIn, make sure you are so you're up to date on everything going on.
And you can find those social media icons at the top of our webpage to link over to all of those things. Uh, and then also wanted to mention that the second Wednesday of every month, if you just want kind of an orientation as to all of the great services at the American Job Center, you can join us from 11 a.m. to noon. You can do that virtually or in person. If you show up in person, then we're able to provide you with an in-person tour of our center as well. But it's a great opportunity to learn more about the great programs and services that we have here.
And we are located on 5752 Ames. So right next to that Planet Fitness there on Ames Avenue. We have a lot of space that is available to the community. So if you have a training and you don't have the space in your location, reach out to us. All our space is available for your use. We don't charge anything at all. So just let us know. There is a link on our page where you can book these rooms free of charge. So that is always available to anyone.
And then also our new South Omaha location is going to be coming soon, early next year. That's going to be located on 24th Street. And we've got a picture of Jennifer Rodriguez here on the screen that she is our coordinator for that location. And so Jasmine mentioned following us on social media. If you follow us on Instagram today, you'll see a nice post about that office and the progress with construction. And so it's worth following us on social media to get some of those updates. But super excited about this space. It's going to be close to 11,000 square feet, remodeling a building that's just north of South High School on 24th Street, and excited to be in that neighborhood. And then just kind of walking through the agenda for today, we've got a few different things that we're going to talk about. So Jasmine and I are going to run through kind of a summary of the incumbent worker training program, talk about the flyer that's available that provides more information, how to access information on our webpage, how to navigate the actual application itself, as well as the approval process. We'll talk a little bit about the employer matching requirement as part of this program, and show you where you'll be able to find some sample contracts here in the near future. After that, we're going to hand it over to Brian Seck. He's with Lincoln Literacy. He's the executive director there. He's got some great experience working with the incumbent worker training program in Lincoln. This is a new program to Omaha, but in Lincoln, it's been going for a little while, both as a training provider and working, in the capacity in the past as a business partnering with the program. And then finally, our team from National ABLE, which is our service provider for our Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act participants, is going to talk a little bit about the next steps of what happens after your training proposal is approved and you receive funding, how kind of the rollout of some of the requirements beyond that. So as we kick things off, I'm going to stop sharing this screen and share a different one. And we will reserve time for questions near the end. So Jasmine, do you want to go over how people can ask questions?
Yeah, so if you want to throw them in the Q&A section or even in the chat, or raise your hand. I can definitely unmute you so you can ask your question. Anyway, I will be keeping an eye on that so that you can ask your question at any time.
So and thank you for that, Jasmine. As we go through this, we wanted to kind of navigate things with you and walk through the resources that we're including on our website right now. That application as mentioned, but then also with the understanding that there's going to be additional resources coming in the near future to help support you in your proposals, as well as in the process of obtaining incumbent worker training dollars. So this is our homepage that you're seeing on the screen. So our, hws-ne.org. From here, there are a lot of great resources for employers in general. And so on the left-hand side, you can see the menu items. There's an employers tab or menu item there. Right underneath it is the incumbent worker training program. So you can get to there a couple different ways. I just want to highlight what's on the employers side of things as well real quick, just to show you some of the resources that we currently have available. So here would be where you'd find out about the Better Business workshops, where you would also register for services, the thing that Jasmine put on the screen with the little dinosaur QR code. Also information about other upcoming workshops, our Work With Us Wednesday stuff, upcoming job fairs such as our Spooktacular that's happening next week, how to sign up for the newsletter. So a lot of great resources, including past editions of the newsletter that does, if you want to go back and look at some great pictures from past events and programs that we've highlighted in the past. So that's the regular employer page. So as we navigate to the incumbent worker training program page, again, clicking through right underneath employers, clicking incumbent worker on the website, you can see that there's a number of different things, resources, explanations, all kinds of fun stuff related to the incumbent worker program. Again, as I said, this is a brand new program, so a little bit of a history on it. Under some of the funding that we receive from the federal government, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, we are allowed to set aside a certain amount of funds, up to a certain amount of funds towards incumbent worker training. Really, incumbent worker training, what that means is training for your existing employees. Most of the training that we have are for individuals that are looking for jobs, that are getting trained up so that they can land that job. This is a different type of program. This is for cohorts of existing employees that need to be trained up in certain areas. And so this is exciting. This is new. Our board has set aside $150,000 for this year, and the year ends June 30th of next year, of 2024. So between now and then, we've got $150,000 available in funding for this program. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do I apply for the program? That's what this webpage is going to talk to us about. So simple answer is that there is an application right here. I won't click on it yet. We'll go through it in a minute. But you can click apply there for the incumbent worker training program. But I just want to give you some additional background, and that's what this page provides. And so, as I mentioned, the training is related to existing employees, your existing workforce, training that up. And so that's what this initial part discusses. Right below here, you'll see that there's some indications related to an employer match requirement. This is something that is required of the program, and it's based off of the size of your company. And so every company needs to match funding in the amount of 10% to 50%, depending on the size of the organization. And so within the application, we'll be asking this question. And so if you're a smaller organization, that percentage drops as low as 10%. If you're a bigger organization, it might be that 50% match. But you can see the match requirements right there based off of your employee size. Part of this too, we have a cool new flyer. I'll make that a little bit bigger. Thank you, National Able Team, for putting this together. Feel free to download this from our website to share with other folks at your company. But this goes through some additional information about eligibility, about just a general explanation of the program. It provides some of the benefits to both the employee as well as the employer, as well as some of the industries. And this isn't a list of all industries, but a list of some sample industries that we can help. Jasmine, as I'm walking through this, is there anything coming to mind that you'd want to like highlight from here?
I would just highlight some of the benefits of the program. So highlighting the benefits of the training program. So that section there for employers. So this will be come in handy to reduce the layoff risk, increase employee retention. So really thinking of what you're gonna get out of it, when it comes to the completion of this. So really making your employees feel valued and encouraging them to excel in their career with you and giving them those opportunities to upskill within their current employment. So I think that is something to highlight there.
So as we continue to scroll down this page, you can see that there's additional information about matching requirements. We are in the process of getting the contract and the policy approved by our board, and so those will be posted on this website as well. And then there is the application and proposal requirements. And so two big things that we want to highlight in this application here are one is a requirement for a training plan proposal, and a second one is an organizational statement related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So Jasmine, do you want to go over the training plan proposal requirements?
Yeah. So with this, we are really just looking for a detailed plan of who you're wanting to go through with the training, what the training cost is, how long the training will be, how many employees you plan to have trained. And so really just looking for some of those details there. And we are looking for a maximum of 2 pages, just to get an idea of what it's going to look like. To help with that selection process, and really just to have a description of what the outcome of that training will look like, any certifications that might be gained, and to be able to go into that proposal. So really just to help with the application process there. And going into this application, we just kind of ask for the very basics, going into the business name, organization, zip code, your industry, your name, title of whoever is filling out the application, best way to reach you, whether that's email, phone number. And then we are asking for you to upload that proposal there. So whether that be a Word document or whatever is easiest there, you're able to easily add that file in there in that application in itself. Yeah, and then we are also asking for a statement regarding diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So whatever that means to your organization, we are just wanting to get a little insight into what that means to your organization, to help with the selection process as well. And then going down the list here.
And so with that, Jasmine, I just was going to mention too, like you notice with the training plan proposal that we submitted, we put some information out there of elements that should be included. And so with the DEI and A statement, we specifically didn't put any elements out there because we feel like that should be up to your organization, how you define that. And we want to see kind of what that comes back looking like. And that'll be information that's not necessarily scored as part of the review, but it will be provided to our board as kind of an element of the package.
Yeah, and so then this part here will also help in being able to determine to see how many employees you will be training and will be going through the training, and then figuring out what provider you will be going through, getting some of that information here, and then figuring out how many employees your company has to figure out the matching portion of that.
Jasmine, Stan, and I imagine that businesses could have questions about what does the match mean? How does that work? And maybe you have planned to talk about it later, and if you do, that's fine. But I imagine that they could be thinking, what do you mean by a match?
Mm-hmm. And we've provided a little bit of that information on our website. It is something where leverage resources can count. A direct payment to the provider can count. There's a few different ways that it can count. We're in the process of waiting for the official policy to be approved by our board. And so more information will be coming on that. But as you have questions, feel free to reach out to any of us involved in this webinar. But so additional information that may be requested in this application includes approximate wages of the employees in this training, and then the overall total cost of the training, including the entire training package for the cohort. And then if you'd like additional information about some of the other business services, including on-the-job training for newer employees or work experience for typically younger employees, youth that may qualify for our Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act youth program, we add that question just so that you're getting connected with a lot of different resources to help support the positions that you have available at your organization. So as we go back to this page, again, that application, you can find it in this, in the middle of the page here with that button. It's also right at the top as well, apply for the Incumbent Worker Training Program. So we have all of that information in there. As Alejandro was asking about, we will be adding more information to support, some of those frequently asked questions, especially related to how the employer match is put into place. We do provide some additional resources here at the bottom in addition to the flyer. There's a great webinar that's out there from the national perspective as to some of the basic requirements for incumbent worker training. But what then happens after the application is submitted? I just wanted to touch on that real quick, how that approval process, what that looks like. And so basically, our nonprofit, Heartland Workforce Solutions, which is the local workforce entity here, again, that serves Washington, Douglas, and Sarpy counties. So this program is going to be limited to employers in Washington, Douglas, or Sarpy counties. But we have a board that's a nonprofit board that oversees our organization, but it also complies with federal requirements for being the local workforce board. And so that board has the responsibility of approving these applications. So it's not going to be me, it's not going to be Jasmine, it's not going to be Alejandro that approves these. It's going to be our workforce board. And so what that process will look like is the application will be submitted. Our team here will review and make sure that we've received all of the information. If not, then we would reach back out and contact you for additional information. The information will be provided to a committee of that board that will take an initial review of it, maybe make some recommendations to the full board based off of their review of things. And then the board will make that final decision. Once that decision is made, then you will be notified of that decision. These board meetings are open to the public, and information about them can be found on the About menu item. So we have board meetings very regularly. Between our board and our executive committee, we typically have a meeting every single month. And that committee that will be helping to review and vet these applications also meets on a monthly basis. So it's not going to be necessarily, a 2-day turnaround type of thing before you find out whether your application is approved or not. It's going to be typically 30 to 60 days out, but it's not going to take forever. And we're going to take these on a rolling basis. And so that's kind of what the application process is going to look like right now. We can take more questions towards the end, but I want to make sure that we're reserving some time to understand how cool this program is in action. And again, we've mentioned that this is a new program to Omaha, but it's not a new program to the state of Nebraska, and especially to the Lincoln area. And so I want to hand it over to Brian Seck from Lincoln Literacy to just kind of talk through his experiences utilizing the program, and what we can learn from him.
Sure. So thanks, Stan, for having me. I'm glad we have some representation from the best city in Nebraska, not just maybe second place, I'm not sure. I'm Brian Seck, Executive Director of Lincoln Literacy. And in a previous life, as of 1 year, it'll be 1 year next week, Stan, already, which is crazy. It'll be 1 year at Lincoln Literacy, but prior to that, I was the Chief Talent Strategist for Kawasaki Motors in Lincoln for about 2.5 years. And about 3,000 people work at Kawasaki. Write about 55 languages that we're aware of. I still say we. It's been less than a year since I've been gone, so I'm going to hold on to we. And Lincoln Literacy works with Kawasaki a lot. And so when I was there was when Lincoln received a large number of Afghan and Ukrainian refugees. Large amount of diversity before that, but those two languages put a lot of pressure on the plant because those were languages that we didn't already have. If it was a new Vietnamese employee, no problem. If it was a new Iraqi employee that spoke Arabic, zero problems. New employee that speaks Pashto, problems. So it really changed the way that we approached training at Kawasaki. And so what we did is Lincoln Literacy now teaches 2 classes through the Incumbent Worker Program at Kawasaki. Employees are on paid time. The way that Kawasaki did it is to actually do it on Saturdays. And it's a 10-week class, once a week, hour a week. And then students can take the class again if they would like to. And what we realized is we really needed 2 classes. At first we had them all together and we thought, oh man, this is too much. Because if you have an intermediate speaker, somebody who understands some English, matched with somebody who just got here and speaks 0 English, neither one of them are going to learn to their potential. So what we did is we created 2 classes. We have what's called a foundations class because we didn't want it to sound remedial. And that's for Kawasaki employees with very, very little English. And we're really focused on like talking, like very pure English. And then we have what we call level 1, which is really focused on people's jobs. So talking a lot about measurement, safety, more safety. Many people who come from other countries have worked in construction, but our level of safety that OSHA requires, as you all know as employers, is very intense and something that a lot of folks aren't used to following protocols so closely. So that's been a learning curve. And then what happens at Kawasaki is that after those 2 classes are complete, students are eligible to go on to what's called Kawa Tech, which is kind of an internal community college through Kawasaki that really opens people's doors to a career at Kawasaki. And I'm proud to report, and I'm about to shut up here and we can talk about more stuff. I'm proud to report that about 85 students have gone through the Kawasaki classes, and we have confirmed that 11 of those have been promoted to what's called assistant team leader. So from production team member to assistant team leader. And at Kawasaki, that's the keys to the castle. Once you become an ATL, you get supervision experience, you're moving off your station and you're understanding more of the plant. And after that, you're really able to grow, whether you want to stay on the line, whether you want to get in quality control, whatever you want to do. So it's really amazing to see those promotions happen. And those promotions include Afghans and Ukrainians, which is really cool. But yeah, so that's kind of my dual experience as Lincoln Literacy and Kawasaki. The Incumbent Worker Program really works great for us. It's a way that businesses basically get the training for half price, more or less, is kind of the way I think about it. And then as Lincoln Literacy, we're able to reach a large number of students. Many of the students at Kawasaki go on to take more classes at Lincoln Literacy. And we're now at 11 businesses across Lincoln now, including Kawasaki.
That's pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take any questions, or Stan, if you had any, or however you wanted to proceed.
No, I guess we can also kind of pause here as well for questions from the audience related to anything that Brian might have said, to be respectful of his time as well to, get those questions in during this segment. But wanted to highlight as well that, one of the things that we didn't talk about is the types of different of training that we can pay for with this program. And so, Brian highlighted a lot of great things, especially with the language learning component, but it really is kind of limitless at this point. We just have to show the value of that training compared to the industry or occupation that the individual is in. And so there could be a lot of creative or collaborative opportunities. And so we didn't want to like start listing out, well, it needs to be OSHA 10 or OSHA 30 or whatever, or language component, whatever it might be. There really could be a lot of possibilities for whatever training environment you need your employees in. And so that's one of the great things about this program.
Yeah, and Stan, what I can say about that is that, at least for us, and I think the incumbent worker program has a lot of different possibilities. It's not, blueprinted. There's all kinds of things you can do. So what we do is we have 10-week cohorts, and what we'll do is a pre-test and post-test, and that's what we submit to the Greater Lincoln Workforce Development Board to show the impact on learning. So maybe Stan gets a 60% on the pretest, which is based on the content that we're going to do. And at the end of the 10 weeks, he's got a 90%. And so that's the way that we can show the impact of a short-term training, is to say, hey, this is targeted. We're not trying to teach Webster's dictionary here. Like, let's prove that we can show an increase in knowledge. We also do computer literacy classes through the incumbent worker program to teach a lot of custodial and nutrition folks at one of our hospitals, to prepare them for patient-facing jobs so they get promoted up through the value stream at the hospital and be able to make more money. So that one is a really cool thing too, just to watch people's learning, because they know how to use their phones, right? Everyone's a ninja on their phone, but firing up a PC and sending an email or using a hospital software, that is not TikTok. It's really, you don't really realize that there's 13 steps to write an email until you teach people the 13 steps to write an email. So that you can really kind of show the impact on learning. And that's how we do it, to show the businesses that it's valuable, but also to satisfy the incumbent worker training program requirements of learning.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we'll kind of keep watching and seeing if more questions roll in related to any of this, but definitely appreciate that, Brian. And want to just hand over some time to National Able. So National Able, Alejandra and Megan are here representing that team. They do a fantastic job with the programs that they have under the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And so they will be helping to lead the charge when it comes to what happens after promote. Well, they'll be helping to promote the program as well, so you may hear from them in that capacity. But also, once you're approved for the program, what are the next steps? What goes into that? Be great if Alejandra and Megan, you could talk a little bit about kind of the next steps and things.
Yeah, so we're so excited to see you guys on this call, or to know that you're on the call to hear about this wonderful program that is opening up in Omaha. My name is Alejandra Sinesio. I am the Chief Program Officer for National Able Network, and I'll let Megan introduce herself. But I'm just briefly going to talk a little bit about, so once you're approved and the board approves your training program, kind of the next step is that someone from our team, which will likely be Megan, will reach out to you and get things started. So really what we're going to do is find out who are the staff members who are actually going to be a part of this incumbent worker training program, and then set up a time to come out and work with them to get them registered into the program. There are a few steps that have to take place. As you know, we have to track the individuals that go through this training. So there's a few steps that have to take place that are really simple, but in order to facilitate it for you and make it even easier, we want to come out to your space and do that for you, where it's helpful to do that. And if it's better for your staff to come to us, we can do that, but we can figure out the logistics. But we'll reach out to you, figure out what the best way to connect with those staff members are. And then we'll talk to you about, how do I get reimbursed for the training? How does payment happen? What steps need to be taken in order for this funding to continue? There are going to be some, again, very minimal requirements just on reporting, because we have to know how things are going along the way. So again, the policy hasn't been approved and we haven't finalized that piece of it yet, but it could be like a quarterly report that we'll ask you to do to let us know how the individuals who are being trained are doing in their training and where things are at with them. As you're going through the training process, we'll want to keep track of with you. And again, we'll make it as simple as we can for you, because we really want this to be something that's super beneficial to your organization. We'll have to keep track of where things are at with the training. Megan, Megan will have a career coach who will work individually with the staff members. We can provide information about other things that we have that your staff might benefit from, other programs that we have in terms of, if they need support services or they need, additional support to complete that. If it's English language learning classes, what additional support might they need to be able to be successful in that training that you're offering for them? But Megan, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Megan Shea Evans. I'm the program director here. Yeah, it's going to be all new to us, but I think that I'll have our senior career coach, Maria, will be taking these individuals that will be going through the program once we get our first business that would like to go through this, which will be really exciting. Betty will be one of the ones to help, do the business side of it. And then, her and Maria work really well together. So I think that it will be, similar to how we probably do our on-the-job trainings. So I think it'll be just, getting to know their progress and, Maria really getting to know the client or the job employer and the employee, and then Betty working with the employer. So, and just getting their skills to where they want them to be and grow the program. So.
Yeah, one other thing I'll add to this that's very different for us is that it's not based on an individual, it's based on a group of individuals. And so for the employer, really, that means that we are making sure that you have a whole group of individuals that needs this upskilling and are getting the supports they need as they're upskilling. So, when we talk about reports, it's not really on an individual basis, it's more on a group basis.
With that, it probably brings up the question of, well, is there like a minimum size or a maximum size to these cohorts? And there really isn't technically. I mean, it'd all be in your proposal. Maybe that's a good question for Brian. Like, what are the average cohort sizes of your training groups with employers in Lincoln right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we usually try to keep it 10-ish. And that's 10 or so, I guess, would be my answer. And that's generally in adult learning, adult literacy learning, that anything more than 10, it's tough. People can kind of hide from the instructor and not be as involved. We've had it be as small as 5 or 6, but you want to be really careful with that because, with turnover, if you say you're going to do 6 and you do 3, that gets harder in terms of like compliance. So we usually tell the employers, if it's going to be a class of 10, let's aim for 12, knowing that the world exists and it has realities, and you might not finish with 12. So I would say it depends what your contract says, but at Lincoln Literacy, I'd say 10 is about the average. I just subbed at a class at one of our hospitals, and that one had 7 for computer literacy. So I'd say somewhere in that range is probably a best fit to make sure you hit your learning outcomes.
Awesome, thanks for that. Also, kind of thinking back, Brian, where you were a board member, of the Lincoln board as this program was coming into being. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the board's perspective as to why they felt that this was a valuable, piece of the workforce world?
Sure, I think these monies. I've been on the workforce development for a long time, and for many years, these monies were underspent. Thinking about incumbent worker as opposed to adult and youth. And so we were always kind of racking our brains trying to think about like, what could we do? And retention is really where we landed. So the idea is in the incumbent worker program that these folks already have a job. The question is, how do we help them retain and grow in the job? So at the 11 different businesses that we work with, we not only instruct in English, but we also have HR come in or different department leads where people can get promoted too. So for example, at a construction company, we have foremen come in and say, hey, this is how I became a foreman. You can too. At a manufacturing plant, we'll have the team leaders. So at most manufacturing plants, right, it's like production worker, assistant team leader, foreman, stuff like that. We'll have assistant team leaders and team leaders come in and say, hey, I used to be you. This is how to grow. We'll have HR come in and we'll do joint trainings on what on God's green earth is a premium. I thought premium was a good thing. Now it feels like you're telling me premium means I have to pay for something. So we talk about educational and benefits. What does a 401k mean? Yes, I know your kids will take care of you because that's what your culture says, and that's great. But we still want you to sign up for the 401k. So we really talk about workplace learning, but also quite a bit of benefits and retention information so that people have a good understanding of what their career pathway looks like and what the benefits of working at your companies are. We even spend a lot of time talking about company culture. We teach at one small family-owned manufacturing company, and what they realized is that their immigrant and refugee workforce, whom they like and want to keep, really didn't understand anything about the culture of the company and the tradition of the company, and who started it and all that stuff. So anyway, we spent one of our class times just talking about the history of the company, and it really opened people's eyes that this old guy who came in, who they just thought was an old guy who came in, he's the owner and he really cares and is the reason why it's so friendly to immigrants and refugees. They had no idea. So we also talk about that stuff too. So it's kind of like uncovering informational pieces that employees might benefit from in addition to straight up English.
That's awesome. And I just encourage, again, anybody who wants to put a question in the chat or in the Q&A. Also, I did put the incumbent worker training flyer into the chat, so you can download that directly from there if you didn't grab it from our website earlier. But yeah, really excited about this program. See what other questions are coming in. What about, so the $150,000 that I mentioned earlier that is being set aside for this year, is that going to be like the be all end all? Good question. The answer to that really, it depends. We're anticipating growing this program. We're anticipating setting aside additional funds next year. Basically, we are allowed by the federal government to set aside up to 20% of certain categories of funding. And so that $150,000 is less than half of the funding that we could potentially set aside in any given year related to this type of training. And so if we see a lot of applications, if we see a lot of positive success in this, that's going to be great momentum for us to talk to our board and put aside even more money next year. And so we will be doing that review and analysis early in 2024 to make a recommendation to our board of how much money to set aside for it would be starting July 1st of 2024 for the next round of funds. But for this year, between now and June 30th, it's $150,000 that's available. And then also follow-up question to that, average size of these awards. So that's something that's also dependent on, because this is our first year, we do not have kind of an anticipated average size of award. A lot of that's going to be depending on how big the cohorts are, what type of training, if it's training that leads to specific certifications and credentials that may cost a little bit more, that's okay. We're going to be looking at each application, each proposal, or the board will be looking at each application, each proposal on its own merit. And so there's not really an average cost per cohort that we can put out there right now, just the total amount of money that's available. Any other questions that anybody is seeing? Alejandro, anything that you'd like to add from the national perspective? I know you work all over the place. Any successes or anything that you've seen elsewhere?
No, what I'm hearing from my peers is that businesses are taking advantage of these training programs across the nation for lots of just different reasons. The one Brian shared where, just the English language learning is an issue, or the differences in how people work or do their work. And then also just, in general, some businesses just you may have, for example, older workers on your who are staff members who, maybe need some upskilling in terms of technology, and so you might want to use these dollars to upskill those older workers so that you can keep them in as technology changes, or some businesses just to avoid laying people off because of changes that are happening within their organization. So there's lots of different ways that you can use these dollars. I would say to the businesses, when you're stuck and don't really understand what might be a way that you could use this, reach out to Stan, Jasmine, myself, Megan, or even Brian to ask the questions, because we can help you think through creatively how to use these dollars in different ways.
And I'll make sure that there is contact information on the webpage associated with this. I think on the flyer, there's contact information on there too, right? I'm pretty sure. But wanted to also highlight one more thing real quick on our website. So the recording from this event will be posted on this HWS Better Business Workshops page. Again, that's under the Employer tab. But on this page, for these monthly webinars, we not only provide you with information about what's upcoming, but we also embed all of the past webinars. And so there's a lot of great topics on here. If you want to share this with your colleagues, it'll probably be available, I'd say, a week or so from now. It takes me a minute to actually do the editing and upload it to YouTube and then embed it here, but I'll get it up there soon, and we'll get the presentation slides as well. But there's a lot of other great topics on here, everything from labor law compliance to learning about some of the other resources and funding streams that are available through our American Job Center, to compliance with employment discrimination or OSHA compliance. There's so many different topics because we've been doing these workshops for over 2 years now. And so we try to capture all of these great things, and feel free to utilize that as a resource as much as you want to. And feel free, please attend future events with us as well. And talking about future events, we want to invite you to an event next week. Jasmine, you want to talk about my career story real quick?
Yeah, so we really like to highlight different leaders in the community. And so we like to kind of shed the light, put the spotlight on different people. And so next week on the 25th, Wednesday, the 25th, from 11 to noon, we are going to have my career story at the Connect at the Highlander. This is a virtual event, a hybrid event, so you can attend virtually or in person for some networking. David Pollock is our featured speaker. He'll be sharing his career story, how he got to where he is today, sharing, some of his barriers to where he is and some of his successes, and just sharing, his story. So we're really excited about that. I think that's definitely one of my favorite events that we put on, just because it's another chance to learn and be able to network with others that attend. So make sure to get that on your calendars. It's all over our social media and on our website as well. So make sure to get that on your calendars if you want to attend.
And if you'd ever like to speak at one of those events too, let us know, because we try to highlight as many different industries and occupations as possible. I put the link to that webpage where you can find out about the upcoming event. And again, we also record those. And so past editions of the My Career Story are available online. And so we've got a lot of great leaders from the Omaha area that are on there. You can hear about their career paths, how they got to where they got to. All available online. And so check that out. And so with that, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in, but I just want to thank everybody involved today. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Alejandra. Thank you, Brian. Great conversation. Again, feel free to reach out to any of us as you have questions during this application process. We want to make it as easy as possible, but thank you for being in attendance today. And submit some of those proposals. We're excited to see them. And Brian, good luck on your run this weekend.
Thanks. Looking forward to it. Talk to you soon, Stan. Thanks, everybody.
All right, bye.
Mhm.